I've tried to... And I think human tragedy is the best thing I can come up with. I've had so many opportunities to see quite a bit around the world. So I really thought I was prepared to see what was waiting for me in Nairobi. Nothing could have prepared me in advance for what I saw. This is some of the most difficult living conditions I've ever seen in my life. I saw people and animals living in trash. That's not a figure of speech either. And the sewage system is actually a channel of putrid water that runs down the streets where these people live. There's basically hundreds of thousands of people that live in this area. There's no running water, there's no sewage, so the rivers become the sewage system. Now these are human beings. These are God creations, living like animals. These kids sang to us, we went to one of the stores, and these kids sang this song. They sang the song that they were fearfully and wonderfully made. And they are.
Fearfully and wonderfully made. I got to see this with my own eyes, and I'll never forget. We were so excited to meet some kids that we were helping out, and just couldn't wait to get to know them and hug them and love on them and just see what the difference was in their lives. What difference the little we were able to give them, what difference that made in their lives. And we all flew in, and we got out of the airport, and we piled in this old, nasty white van. There was like 10 of us in this van, but I was sitting by a window, and I couldn't wait to see the city and the country as we drove out to the village to meet these kids. And so we drive away from the airport, and in less than 5 minutes, the conditions deteriorated from an international airport to what you guys just saw in the video. In less than 5 minutes, the pavement ended in the middle of the city. It's a dirt road. It's huge potholes, overturned cars, stuff on fire, people everywhere, trash everywhere. There's trash piles 6 feet high in some places. And we had to slow down almost to a stop as we're trying to navigate around all this stuff. And I'm looking out my window and I see these huge canals that at one point were probably beautiful and flowing with water, but now because of all the trash piled up, by the time the water got down to where our van was, it was this nasty little trickle of gray, disgusting trash water. And about halfway up the canal, I saw a woman moving some trash around, trying to get down to the water to wash a shirt in this water. And upstream from her, I saw a guy using the restroom in that same channel of water. And I'm trying to process all this, like, what is going on? And I look right outside our van, and there are these little girls about the size of my Jack. And I'm watching these little girls, and they're kind of moving around in this trash, and I see this little girl kneel down and scoop a drink out of this stream of water. And I freaked out. I was like, no, stop. I've got a bottle of water in my backpack. I've got 10 bottles of water in my backpack. Please, don't do that. I've got this. What do you need? But it wasn't just her, it was all these little kids just living in this filth, living in this trash. And this little girl stood up and she looked at me through my window and our eyes met. And I saw something I've never seen before in my life. The look on her face was blank. It was nothing. It was like I was looking right through her eyes. There was no hope, there was no joy, there was no love, there was no life. And I've never seen my kids look like that. I've never seen any kid look like that. And it was her, and it was the next little girl, and it was the next child, and it was the next child. I had to turn away from my window and look down at the floor of the van for the rest of the drive through the city because I couldn't look at these kids anymore. It was breaking my heart thinking about my own kids. And we finally made our way through the city and we pulled into the village where the kids were, and we could barely get out of our van in time because the kids were running out of their houses, smiling from ear to ear, laughing and singing, and they ran and they jumped on us and they gave us hugs and they said, thank you. And I have lost it at this point. I'm crying all over these kids. I'm just weeping on these kids. They're like, why are you crying on us? I'm like, I don't know, I love you, I'm sorry. Because I physically couldn't handle the difference between these kids and those kids I'd seen on the street. I physically couldn't handle the difference. It was night and day. It was death to life. And these kids in the village had their obvious needs met. They had clean water, they had food, they had shelter, they had clothing, they had education, they had all that stuff, which is amazing. But they had more than that. They had somebody looking after them who cared whether they lived or died that day. And they knew who Jesus was. And it was all over their faces. You could see it in their eyes. Their eyes lit up with excitement and with hope and with possibilities of who knows what they could grow up to be. They just looked like kids. They just looked like kids, and it changed my life forever that day. It changed Duncan's life too. We have a second half of this video we want to show you right now.
With every problem comes the opportunity for a solution. And that's why I'm so excited about this part. I wanted to find out exactly how Child Fund uses these dollars we give them and how the families will benefit from it. There is a fantastic plan here that you can be a part of. Child Fund has built the entire program for these communities to focus on a few specific areas. First, there's nutrition. Having good, proper nutrition every single day is essential to the children and their development as they learn and how they grow. Then, there's health and clean water. Children receive the essential medical care they need, and with that, the very foundation of good health, which is clean water. This tank right here may not look much to you, but this is a Child Fund water tank. It's 1,000 litres of clean, fresh water that's in one of the schools here that Child Fund sponsors. Then it gets even better. We all know that history can repeat itself. So it's the reason why we put so much emphasis on education. Teaching these children to read, write, basic skills in school, and helping them to acquire knowledge is so important to help them have the chance at a better life. And finally, there is job training. By including the parents of these children, these entire families are improving their lives by learning skills like working in a bakery, agricultural advances that help them grow larger and more nutritious fruits and vegetables, acquiring artisan skills to build their own businesses, and many other opportunities just like these. Well, what a great opportunity we have to revolutionize these people's lives and ultimately give them hope. And if someone has hope, they can do anything.
So when my wife first came to me and said, I think we should sponsor a child, I looked at her like she was crazy. I said, babe, I'm a musician. You know we don't make any money. How are we going to come up with $36 a month to sponsor a child? She said, well, I believe that this is what God wants us to do right now, and I believe that He'll provide, because it's all His anyway. So I said, okay, what are we going to do? So what we did in our family is we cut our cable TV package down from 200 channels to 20 channels, because we only watch 2 channels. We watch ESPN and HGTV. My wife loves sports. I don't know what was on those other channels. I never watched them. I don't miss them. Nothing has changed in my life. I've basically made zero effort, but because we made that tiny decision to move this from here to there, we were able to completely change a child's life from one of those kids on the street to one of those kids in the village. And yeah, I was feeling pretty good about myself, right? Sponsor a child, do my thing. Feeling good. And my wife comes to me and says, well, we have 2 kids, and I think they should each have somebody they can write letters to and get letters back from, so I think we should sponsor another child. And I looked at her and I said something I've said many times in our 17 years of marriage. I said, babe, you're right. Yeah. I said, but what are we going to do? And so what we decided to do is just go to Starbucks one less time per week and drink coffee that we already have in our house. I mean, I still get to have coffee. It's not even a sacrifice. It's this tiny adjustment that we make. This tiny adjustment that we make in our everyday blessed lives that after a few days or a few weeks or a few months becomes our new normal. It becomes our new habit. It becomes the new way that we live our life to where we don't remember the old way or it doesn't matter anymore. But because we made that tiny decision, that tiny adjustment, it completely changes the life of another human being. And it's so fun for my kids. We sit down at the dinner table and we open up the letters they get from their friends, and we write them letters and draw them pictures. I actually get to take my daughter in August to Zambia to meet her friend Josephine, who we've sponsored for years. They're the same age. She's freaking out. She is furiously writing her letters and saying, I can't wait to meet you, it's going to be so fun. And they're just, I can't wait. And my kids get to have friends that live completely different lives than they do halfway around the world. And I love it. And I know some of you guys already sponsor a child. And first of all, I want to say thank you. And second, I want to say you're not off the hook tonight. We need you. I've had so many stories of people coming up to me and telling me what these kids have grown up to do. I actually had a newlywed couple come up to me, 21 years old, and they were going to sponsor a child. And I was like, oh, you guys are so sweet. You're going to sponsor a child. That's awesome. They're like, yeah. We already sponsored 3 kids, but we have 2 girls and a boy, and we need another boy to make it even. Oh, okay. Newlyweds, 21 years old, sponsoring 4 kids. They said, we don't have any kids of our own yet, but these are our kids. And if you're wondering if these kids are real, or if they're just these pieces of paper that you put on your refrigerator, I can tell you they're real. I've seen them with my eyes. I've held them in my arms. And because of the help that they get from people like you and me at a concert in West Palm Beach, Florida, they're able to go through a program like Child Fund, get the education they need to graduate out of that program, and these kids are going to universities. These kids are graduating from universities. They're becoming doctors, they're becoming teachers, they're becoming electrical engineers, they're becoming politicians. They're going back into their communities and changing their communities. In fact, we're in Guatemala where the footage for my song Fighting For You was shot. And we sat down at dinner with the director of Child Fund for the entire country of Guatemala. Her name's Brenda. We sat down at dinner with Brenda, and the first thing she said to us was, I was a sponsored child. She said, somebody took a chance on me a long time ago, and now I get to go back and not just help my family, not just help my city, I get to help my entire country because somebody helped me. Yeah, I mean, tonight we have 300 kids here with us from 30 different countries. 300 kids from 30 different countries here with us tonight. And if you're looking around, you haven't noticed them, don't freak out, they're not physically here. But I wish I could bring them here and show them to you guys. I wish I could put 100 kids up here on the stage, and they're playing the drums, and they're all up and down every aisle, and they're all over the place. They're hanging out playing football on the lawn, and there are 300 kids all over this place, sitting in the seat next to you from 30 different countries. And I said, hey, Florida, none of these kids have had anything to eat or drink today. Can somebody go grab them something from the concession stand? Yeah, sure, of course. Every hand would go up. Hey, half of these kids in this room don't have shoes on their feet right now. Does anybody have an extra pair of shoes you can give to one of these kids? Yeah, you can have the shoes off my feet, little kid. I'll go get more. It's because the need is obvious. It's right there. You can reach out and touch it. It's the same thing as if these kids were sitting in that seat right next to you. I got you. I got you. I'll take care of you. We have a chance to make that tiny adjustment in our lives and totally change their life. In fact, the Newsboys believe in this so much that they've asked if they can join with you guys and sponsor the first child of the night. Can I get a volunteer to come up and bring me a packet so the Newsboys can sponsor? Can you run up here, Caleb? Thank you. The Newsboys have sponsored the first child of the night tonight and every night on tour for the last 1.5 years because they believe in this so much. So tonight, Gurish Sadar from India, you are now sponsored by the Newsboys. Congratulations. And one more thing. The Newsboys have asked if they can meet you tonight if you sponsor a child. And so for every single person here tonight who sponsors a child, right after the show, the Newsboys want to bring you backstage, look you in the eye, shake your hand, say thank you for changing the world with us tonight. Thanks for making tonight about more than just music. Thanks for living out the lyrics to these songs like God's Not Dead and changing the world with us. So tonight, every single person who signs up to sponsor a child, the Newsboys want to bring you backstage right after the show and meet you and say thank you personally. We have volunteers all over this place with the packets of the lives of these kids in their hands.